Good afternoon, everyone. Our topic introduces the concept of the social contract as argued by Glaucon in Plato's Republic. So, the idea of this text starts with human nature. So, we all believe that doing wrong is good for us, but suffering wrong is terrible. For example, nag-cheat ka to pass the test. Nag-cheat ka sa imong classmate. Dayon, pagkahuman nadto na-satisfy na nimo imong desire nga mag-cheat ka para mo pasa sa test. So karon, nasakpan man imong classmate kay siya ang nagpa-cheat or siya ang nagpa-pakapi sa imuha, no? So, imbis na ikaw ang na punishment, imo na nung classmate ang na punish. So, however, we quickly realize that the fear of being a victim is much stronger than the desire to be perpetrator, no? So, the ideal is simple, no? We give up the freedom to harm others for the security that others won't harm us. For example, you obey the law rules sa traffic, no? Gusto ka magpadagan og kusog, but in order nga dili ka tikitan sa kusog ka padagan, so imong gi-give up ang imong thought nga magpakusog kag padagan. So now let's dive into the next slides, no? So we're exploring one of the most proactive ideas from philosophy, the challenge to the very idea of morality. So here's the question: are we good because we love goodness, or is it because we're afraid of getting caught? So this challenge is first laid out by the sophist Thrymachus in Plato's Republic, who argues that justice is the interest of the stronger. So he claims that the morality is just a tool of power. The rulers, who make laws that benefit them, and then they force the weaker citizens to follow those laws and call it justice. So, the next slide is... So, the Ring of Cags is a thought of experiment from Plato's Republic about a shepherd named Gyges who discovers a ring that grants invisibility. So, using the ring, Gyges seduces the queen and murders the king and takes over the kingdom. So this story is used to argue that people are only just out of fear of punishment and wouldn't act unjustly if they could do without consequences. So Thrymachus' friend which is Glaucon, then offers a famous thought experiments to prove this point. He asks us to imagine the ring of Gyges. So imagine if natagaan ta og ring nga mahimo or kanang ring nga mo grant sa invisibility. No, so unsa man ang mahuna-unaan sa mga tao, di ba is kanang magbuhat sila og kanang action nga makasatisfy sa ilang needs, kanang mabuhat na nila ang tanan given sa mga issue karon, di ba? So kung wala lang ang wala may ring nga maka-invisible, di ba, nga makatago sa atua. So that is why mag-act sila according to the law nga para maka-protect sila ba nga, para maka-avoid sila punishment. Pero if naa sila or if naay nga ring nga maka-grant of invisibility, do you think nga maka-feel silang fear nga kuan kanang himuon ko ni di ko ni himuon kay basin mapunish ko, di ba? If naay ring kanang di na sila maabot sa punishment kay katong ring nga nahatag sa ilaha is kanang makagrants og invisibility, which means nga walay makita sa ilaha nga kung mukawat na kakawaton ko ni, walay makita sa imo kay ang katong suot niya nga ring is the grant of invisibility. So, what do you mean by the best of all? Doing wrong, diba? The first extreme is what people naturally desire and consider the best thing of all. To commit to do wrong without suffering any punishment. So, for example, you commit murder, which is kanang, or you commit something kanang bad nga kanang ma-frame up kanang nakay gusto buhaton pero di ka gusto nga ikaw ang mudala, like ikaw like talang kay gusto nga kuhaon ba, like i-achieve para ma-satisfy imong desires. And then the second one, without having or without suffering any punishment. So this represents total freedom and maximal self-interest. If you could steal, cheat, or harm others to get what you want without ever facing consequences, you would maximize your own personal gain. Second one, the worst of all. The second extreme is what people fear and consider the worst thing of all. To suffer wrong with no possibility of revenge. To be wrong, bitaw. So, kagaya na, example ko about sa, you commit something that satisfy your own needs. What if that na-frame up ka and wala nimo gibuhat, wala kay evidence nga kanang mag-take lead nga dili ikaw to. So, I have an example about, it is a K-drama siya. Naay isa ka lalaki nga kanang gakuan bitaw siya kanang ga-deliver siya og mga pagkaon sa mga ga-deliver siya og pagkaon. One day kanang naay tigwang nga naidalang maleta bitaw, and out of kanang willingness kanang naluoy siya, iyang gitabangan ng tigwang nga dalon ang maleta nga grabe ka bugat sa itaas nga bahagi, like murag hagdang bitaw. Pero kabalo ka, ang the twist is that katoy yung gitabangan is kanang na-frame up siya, no? So ang sulod di ay adtong ang sulod adtong maleta is body remains, meaning kanang katoy wala siya kabalo nga kadto man dayang kanang out of willingness nga yang gitabangan ang tigulang kadto man day sulod sa kanang ang sulod sa maleta is body remains. So, karon nga na suffer siya kay without any revenge, no nag-suffer siya kay kuan man kanang dili man siya ang naghimo adto, wala siya kabalo. So, na-frame up siya sa the one who kanang na sila gusto nga i-satisfy ba. So, na-frame up siya. So, that is why. Now, kanang wala siya kakuha og revenge kay ang CCTV sa iyaha lang ang nakafocus dili sa tiguang. Dadton niya gidala ang kanang maleta sa naay CCTV without even knowing nga katong naaman day kanang sulod sa maleta is body remains. No, therefore, according to Glocon, justice is born out of fear and rational self-interest, not out of genuine love for morality or virtue. It is merely the set of laws and covenants agreed upon as a practical compromise. So, and overall, we do not, ang pagtonya is we don't love, or our love for morality is not genuine. Kanang gabase ta sa kanang out of fear kay mahadlok tag punishment. So, we will now proceed to the next slide.
Morality as a social contract. So, mutual agreement. Morality is like a deal we all agree to. We follow rules not because we love them, but because they help keep us safe. And if everyone could do whatever they wanted, life would be dangerous and chaotic. Hope's a state of nature. Philosopher Thomas Hobbes imagined a world without rules and laws. He said it would be a place where people are always afraid, fighting, and struggling to survive. That's why we agree to follow rules, to avoid that kind of life. Critics of the social contract. Instrumental value in this view, morality is useful because it helps us get what we want, like safety or peace. But it's not seen as someone good on its own. Glucon's critic, Glucon from Plato's Republic said that if someone had the power to break the rules and never get caught, they would. So, morality only works if people are afraid of being punished. That makes it weak and easy to ignore. Morality as oppression. Some philosophers believe that morality isn't just a deal, it's a way for powerful groups to stay in control. Nietzsche, philosopher, he thought morality was made by the weak to stop strong people from using their power. It keeps great individuals from reaching their full potential. And then another philosopher, Rousseau, he believed that the rich created rules to protect their wealth and trick the poor into following them. Another philosopher is Marx. He said morality helps the rich, the ruling class, stay in power and keep the poor in their place. And then Pateman and Mills, they argued that the social contract was made by the rich white men and it leaves out women and people of color. So, the rules are unfair from the start. Last is the philosophical implication, unmasking morality. These thinkers believe that what we call morality might actually be the way to control people. They want to uncover the truth behind these rules. The next is that toward a new morality. Their goal isn't to destroy morality, but to build a better one. One that's fair, includes everyone, and it's based on what's truly right and not just what benefits the powerful.
A social contract is the idea that people agree, explicit or implicit, to follow certain rules so that society can function peacefully. Without it, life would be chaotic and miserable. Critics versus defenders. Critics say that social contract has often been misused to benefit only certain groups like rich and white people. Defenders argue that a true social contract should be inclusive, made between all people as equal for everyone benefits. Rousseau's positive view. In 1762 believed that social contract could be a tool for equality and freedom, not oppression. It's about creating rules that serve the common good. Charles Miles. Miles points out that there has been a racial contract that excluded people of color. He argues we can build a new fair social contract that includes all races equally. Hobby's view. Cooperation brings huge benefits in industry, science, art, culture, and peace. Even if the social contract is a compromise, it's worth it because it allows life to flourish. Reciprocal altruism. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. This shows that helping others often benefits you too. But critics worry this makes morality too fragile. If one person stops cooperating, everything falls apart. So, the challenge is to ground the social contract in something deeper than just self-interest.
So what is game theory? So game theory is a way of studying how people make decisions in situations where their choices affect each other. So it is called game theory because it involves or it looks like a situation like a game. So there are players and each player has an action and each action has a different result. So we use game theory to understand real-life situations such as cooperation, trust, and conflict. So let's talk about Bonnie and Clyde situation. So Bonnie and Clyde are arrested for two things. Number one is small crime, which is stealing a car, and a big serious crime, which is armed robbery. So the police can only prove one crime, which is katong small crime. So they separate Bonnie and Clyde and give the same offer to deal. So here's the offer. If you confess and the other stay quiet, you go free, and the other get 15 years. So it's either of them confess, then ang isa sila malaya siya katong nag-confess, but ang isa mo'y ma-preso for 15 years. And if you stay quiet and the other confess, you get 15 years of imprisonment. So, if maghilom lang ang isa sila and then ang katong isa, still 15 years of imprisonment. But if they both confess, they will 50-50. Si Bonnie 7 years and Clyde will also receive 7 years. And if both stay quiet, 1 year each sila. So that's the deal. So they cannot talk to each other. So they do not know what the other will choose.
Then if you both stays quiet, you get 1 year each of imprisonment. Then the dilemma is if Clyde stays quiet, he get 1 year of imprisonment. So if he confesses, he get 0 years for imprisonment. So that is better for Bonnie. Then if Clyde confesses, when Clyde stay quiet, he get 15 years of imprisonment. So if he confesses, he get 7 years of imprisonment. So that's better for Bonnie.
Unsa ang dilemma to? So dara ang dilemma. So the best choice for each is to confess. The best choice for both is to stay quiet, but due to the lack of trust, mo na yung resulta nga mas worse na situation nga nahitabo. So nganong dilemma man to? So why this is a dilemma? So this is a dilemma because they want to trust each other but they are afraid that other will betray them. So they want to protect themselves. They cannot communicate and they do not know what will the other person's decision or unsay pilion niadto. So they choose the option na they look safer para sila but it leads to worse outcome. Prisoners of dilemma shows that what people think only about protecting themselves, but that there's a huge tendency it may end up into a worse situation. So just like Bonnie and Clyde situation, both confess because they were afraid each other na traidoron traidoron si Bonnie or si Bonnie may traidoron sila So hadlok sila nga wala isalig sila sa usag-usapon. So their kanang intimidation will lead to or choose what's safest for each of them, but it gave them a result that was worse than cooperation. This prisoner's dilemma teaches us to trust matters in relationship, teamwork, and community. So makita na to nga si Bonnie and Clyde is lack of it. So that's why they lead to the worst situation where both of them priso for pila ka tuig nga pwede raw ta mag both stay quiet para mas win-win situation sila. 1 year imprisonment of Bonnie and 1 year imprisonment of Clyde. So another one, cooperation often gives better result than working alone. So the case of Bonnie and Clyde, they were or they cannot communicate to each other, so that's why also a hinder for them to decide nga silang duwa gyud. So nang naitabo, they working on alone na lang. Fear and lack of communication can cause people to make decisions that harm everyone. So sometimes the best choice is to think of the group, not just for yourself. So in real life, whether in school, friendship or family, projects, always good have a trust and cooperation than working alone. So it kanang bitang makatabang siya to not just for yourself but as a group, and trusting each other often leads to best outcome. So that's it for my part.
So good day everyone. So let's proceed the cooperations and public goods to understanding why working together matters. So first one is, what is cooperation? So cooperations means working together for a common goal. So sometimes we benefits more when we help each other rather than acting only for ourselves. So maka-benefits with more people to help rather than the acting only for ourselves. So but people do not always cooperate. So dili always mag-cooperate ang mga tao. So especially when they think others will do for work them. So makating sila nga katong ilang trabaho sa uban, matrabaho pud sa ila. So when you choose cooperations, we can share responsibility. For example, use follow rules, save resources, and respect others. So when you say cooperations makes life easier for all and of us. So in the real life, we face choice that affect not only us but the whole community. So when you choose when people choose not to cooperate, so everyone can suffer. So kung kita dili man ta mag-cooperate sa ato ang whole community. So let's proceed the multipersonal dilemma. So I have the example which is the water shortage. So the government asks people to save water. So we all know nga atong government nag-ask sa ato na mag-save of water. So person may think that if others save water, I can use a lot. My waste is too small to affect anything. So mas kung mag-save sila ng water, maka-use gid sila a lot. But if others don't save water, then my efforts won't matter. So makaroon na sila nga magtipid pa man ko nga ang uban wala man nagtipid. So nagbayad man ko ani nga ang uban sige ra gamit nga wala bayad. So kinana. So everyone thinks this way that water runs out. Kasi mahogdan sila tubig. So mag-think sila, but everyone cooperates, the city can survive the shortage. So kung ang tao mag-cooperate so dili gid mahogdan og tubig sa ilang mga lugar. So next, we'll proceed what are the public goods. So what are the public goods? So public goods are things that everyone can benefit. Cannot be limited only those who pay. For example, the ring lights, clean air, national defense, and public parks. So, if one person's pay for the public goods, so everyone receive the benefits when those who did not contribute. So ang usa ka person nga nagpay siya for the public goods. So everyone can benefits, can receive. Bisag katong uban wala ga bisag wala ga sila gabayad. So maka-receive gyapon sila ana, makagamit gyapon sila like sa street lights, no, masugaan gyapon ta bisag kana nga string lights ilhara na pero gamit gyapon sa tua. So next is the problem of free riders. So the free rider is someone who benefits from the public good without helping pay for it. So like for example, a person waits for neighbors to install street lights instead for contributed. So kung ikaw wala kay ikahatag o ika-contribute ana, so you need to help ikaw lang mag-install ana sa ring lights kay pati man ta makagamit or siya makagamit siya ana nga street lights. So like when too many people know nga pre-rides, kung na pre-ride, so the public goods becomes under supply. So dan sila supplies, meaning we don't get enough for it even if everyone wants it. So next is the problem of public pads. So public pads are harmful things that spread to everyone. So munang mga issue nga maka-harm sa tuang tanan or sa tuang community, mga issue di ba na, so like inana nga maka-epekto sa tuang community or so on. So like for example mga issue or harmful na like pollution, noise, wasting, dumping, so like inana. So people sometimes produce public pads kay because it's easier or cheaper for them to push the cost onto society instead of solving its responsibility. So next is why cooperation is important. So cooperations, no, I have said earlier nga cooperations na makali means is working together, no. So cooperations is leads to better outcomes for everyone. So maghatag gid siya mas better outcomes for everyone kung mag-cooperate lang tanan. So working together helps supply public goods like street lights, clean water, and safe communities. So without cooperation, the society face shortage or pollution and unfairness. So even though the acting selfishly may seem rational, so corporations create the greatest benefits for the whole group and or community. So next is how society encourages cooperation. So sa mga encourages atong mabuhat. So the society. So first one is government rules and law. Next is taxes for the public goods, and next is community program. Lastly is educations about shared responsibility. So since people do not always cooperate or voluntarily, so society used rules to make sure public goods are available for everyone. So for the conclusion, so cooperations is essential for solving shared problems. So the public goods benefits everyone, but are often not provided enough when left to individuals. So working together ensure the safer, cleaner, and more successful community. So that's all my report, and thank you.
So, continuation of the cooperation and public goods. The text discusses political philosophy concept related to the public goods social contracts, and morality. Using these ideas of Thomas Hobbes and examples like the Bonnie and Clyde scenario that illustrates how cooperation can evolve from self-interest. Cooperation can evolve from self-interest through mechanism where the persons benefits of working together. Examples that business and partnerships. Companies often form alliances, example supply chain, tech development, where they can share resources and risk. And then the public goods, Hobbes, Leviathan. Government action is presented as a solution to public goods, bad problems. It's a concept that Hobbes argues require an absolute sovereign to enforce cooperation. Like example of this is the community cleanup drive, where neighbors work together to keep public parks and streets clean, ensuring a shared environment benefits all. So neighborhoods Watts program. Examples where the residents cooperate to enhance safety and reduce crime, benefiting the whole community. These examples illustrate how cooperation helps overcome the challenge that public goods face. By working together, communities ensure the maintenance and sustainability of these shared resources and services for the benefit of all. Next is the morality as a social contract. The idea of morality as a social contract suggests that individuals benefit from mutual restraint and cooperation. It posits that people implicitly agree to follow certain moral rules and principles to ensure a stable and functional society. A common example that illustrate this concept is the traffic rules or traffic laws. The rules. So the drivers agree to stop at red lights and follow the speed limit. The benefit of this is that following these rules ensures safer and more predictable roads for everyone, reduce accidents and chaos. The next is the social contract perspective. Even if a single defection is successful, if everyone acted that way, the system would collapse into dangerous and inefficient traffic. So therefore, it is in everyone's best interest to mutually restrain their behavior and cooperate by following the rules.
So the next one here is developing a contract argument. So a contract argument says morality is like an agreement among people about what rules we should follow so everyone feels safe and treated fairly. So the key point here is morality is an agreement among people, and the goal here is to create rules everyone accepts. So there are four one-sided arguments that is shown here. So the first one is the Glaucon, which is the weak versus strong. Glaucon argued that people make rules mainly to protect themselves. The weak agree to follow the rules so the strong don't take advantage to them. So this one shows one-sided agreement that the strong benefits more than the weak. So the second one is Rousseau, which is the rich versus poor. So Rousseau pointed out that the social rules often favor the rich. The rich create agreements that protect their wealth and power. The poor people follow these rules even if it doesn't benefit them equally. So the third one is Pateman, which is the sexual contract. Pateman highlighted gender inequality in social contracts. Traditional rules were made mostly by men for men. Women's rights and interests were often ignored. So this is also a one-sided argument. So the last one is males, which is the racial contract. Males showed that society rules often favor certain races. Privileged racial groups create laws and norms that benefit themselves. People from other races are treated unfairly or even excluded. So the next one here is the minimal moral rules. If we only follow self-interest, maybe everyone agrees on basic rules, like don't kill. But beyond that, it becomes complicated. For example, stealing or sexual violence, racial discrimination are wrong. So some people might say no if it limits what they want to do. So here comes the problem of opposed interest. Because people want different things, different interests. It's hard to get full agreement. So the more complex they are, the smaller the contract becomes. So it might be impossible to create rules that truly works for everyone.
Continuations of our discussions under the developing the contract argument. So, in the picture, this is John Rawls from 1921 to 2002. John Rawls was a contemporary philosopher, meaning he lived in the modern era, and also he was a political philosopher, which means he studied what a fair and just society should look like. So, he argued that we have to imagine the social contract taking place under very special and unusual conditions. What does it mean? He believed that if people create rules while thinking only about themselves, the rules will be so unfair. So, unsa yung gibuhat? He suggests a method that helps people to think about fairness for everyone, and that is the idea of the social contract. So, his goal was not mainly individual morality but to help society overcome opposed interests. So, John Rawls didn't focus on individual morality. Wala na siya ga-focus sa individual morality on what one person should do, but on how a whole society can overcome conflicts and think beyond my interest versus your interest. So, let us say, example, if the rich people make all the rules, they may create the rules that help only them. So, John Rawls wanted to prevent that from happening. So, and the next slide is veil of ignorance. So, John Rawls introduced a powerful idea called the veil of ignorance. So, what is it? So, what is veil of ignorance? It is a way of imagining that you don't know anything about yourself. You don't know your gender, race, wealth, if you are poor or rich, religion, abilities, and your family background. So the purpose of the veil of ignorance is to make sure people cannot create rules that only benefits themselves. Why? Because if you don't know who you will be in the society, you will try to make rules that are fair for everyone. So, and the next slide is ensure the quality. So, if no one knows their positions, everyone will choose the rule that provides equal protections to all. So, the original positions, Rawls calls these imaginative situations the original positions. A fair and neutral starting point where individuals design the most just and moral principle for society. So, it is a neutral starting point where everyone creates the most fair and just rules. Example, if you don't know whether you will be a rich or a poor, you will choose rules that protect both to grow fairly from rich to poor. Diba? Next slide is, before that, moral choice behind the veil of ignorance. So, Rose said that behind of the Bill of Ignorance, people will reject unfair or harmful rules because they might be the one affected. So, and the questions of would you approve of sexual violence against women? Obviously not, because they have a chance or 50% chance that you might be a woman. You would not approve the rules that allow sexual violence because that puts you at the risk. What about the racial discrimination, diba? Of course, dilipod ka mo ingon na musugot ka because possibly you might belong to a minority of a race. You wouldn't accept the rules that allow racism. How about the thief? Diba? Possibly may mukhang wealthy. You might be a wealthy. So you wouldn't allow the rules that permit stealing. And how about lastly, how about extreme poverty? Diba? Dilipod ka gusto. You might be a poor that you wouldn't want a society that ignores hunger or homeless. So that what the moral choices behind the Wheel of Ignorance. So they have the advantage of this model. So combining self-interest and ignorance. So the Wheel of Ignorance works because it combines self-interest. You naturally want to protect yourself, and ignorance of who you will be. You don't know what rules you will have in society. So if we combine these two, self-interest and the ignorance, this creates fair, equal, and safe rules. And the next slide is social contract theory can be a perfect tool. So Rose's method can be used to improve fairness in society. It helps with gender and race equality, which have a fair roles for men and women, and no discriminations based on the race. The second one is the economic fairness. Economic fairness support both rich and poor. And the last and the third perfect tool is the protections of marginalized group. So help those who are often ignored or oppressed. Example, if a police harm the poor, minorities, or women, Rose's method would reject it, diba? And next slide is Rose's positions is reminiscent of a view expressed by Mahatma Gandhi from 1869 to 1948. Rose's idea is similar to a teaching by Mahatma Gandhi, a leader of India's independent movement from British rule. So, Gandhi's talisman, last note he wrote that he will give you a talisman whenever you are in a doubt or when the self becomes too much with you. Apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man or woman whom you may have seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him or her. Will she gain anything by it? Will it restore him, her, the control over her own life and destiny? In other words, will it lead to swara, freedom for the hungry and spiritually starving millions? Then you will find your doubts and yourselves melt away. Gandhi, 1948-1951, page 65. So, Gandhi talisman note, whenever you are confused or selfish, do this: think of the poorest and weakest person you have ever seen. Ask yourself, will my decisions benefit these persons? Will it help them live with dignity? Will it give them more freedom and control over their life? Or will it help the hungry, the weak, and the suffering? So Gandhi said, if the answer is yes, then your doubt and selfness will disappear. Example, If you make a rule about food price, ask, will the poorest persons be able to afford that food? Why should, say, a privileged rich white man be interested in this argument? So, goodwill, the human being do want to find her fair terms of corporations. Therefore, Rawls' contract methodology does not provide an answer to the moral skeptic. So, the problem, why should the privileged care? A question's role face, why should the rich privileged person support fairness? They might say, if I am behind the veil of ignorance, I will choose a fair rules. But in real life, I know I'm privileged, so I prefer the rules that benefit me. What this shows, so Rawls' method depends on humans' goodwills. It assumes people want to cooperate fairly and think about justice. So the limitations of this is that his method, or General's method, does not convince someone who only cares about benefiting themselves, or a moral skeptic. So for the last slide, for my part, is its purpose is to offer up procedures for turning what he calls a sense of a justice into one explicit moral code that is capable of taking everyone's interest into account. So, purpose of Rawls' theory, or John Rawls' goal, is not to force people to be moral. His purpose is to turn our sense of justice, the natural feeling that fairness matters, into an organized moral code that considers everyone's interests, protects the vulnerable, promotes fairness, and guides society in making just rules. So, example na is schools, governments, and communities can use this method to make fair policies. And that's all to be my part.
Beyond rules and regulations, learning how texts reflect on text is not only essential for analyzing in English class, but also for developing a broader set of skills and perspectives that are valuable in life. It encourages us to become thoughtful, empathetic, and culturally aware individuals who appreciate the power and significance of literature in our world. So let's start thinking critically about the texts we are going to study and investigate the contextual factors that might have shaped or influenced their creation. So we have unwritten social norms, which is respectful communication, waiting your turn, helping others in public, and showing courtesy and consideration. Social trust and cooperation. Trust makes daily interactions smoother, encourages cooperation within communities, and reduces conflict and supports unity. In moral and ethical responsibilities, we have honesty and fairness, empathy and compassion, respect for others' rights, and acting according to conscience. And shared values and collective identity. We have here volunteering for the community, helping neighbors, keeping public spaces clean, and supporting social causes. And here in informal social sanctions, we have social approval and praise, social disapproval or shame, and peer expectation, and encourages responsible behavior. In conclusion, we have society relies on unwritten norms and values, and these guide behavior beyond formal rules, and they promote harmony, cooperation, and trust. That's all.
So my name is Villaret. So again, what is social contract? So social contract, it is an argument between individual or group to cooperate and abide rules and norms. So now let's going to proceed to my topic, which is the social contract theory and practice. So by understanding social contract theory and practice, we can better appreciate the complexities of human relations and the mutual benefits. Social contract and veil of ignorance. It is a method for making fair moral decisions by imagining you don't know who you will be. It encourages seeing situations from other people's perspectives and helps remove selfish biases. So, the veil of ignorance is a thought experiment introduced by philosopher John Rawls in his book A Theory of Justice. It is a key concept in his theory of justice as fairness. So, for instance, you're going to imagine you're behind a veil of ignorance where you don't know your social status, your talent, your wealth, and especially your gender or personal values. So, your goal is you hope to design a just society without knowing where you'll end up in it. So, it promotes fairness, equality, social justice. So, in short, veil of ignorance is a powerful thought experiment that challenges us to think critically about justice, equality, and fairness. So we have two moral questions. So first question, when, if ever, should you decide that an elderly, very sick relative should not undergo further heroic surgery but should be allowed to pass in relative context? Second question is, under what circumstances, if any, should abortion be permitted? Can the social contract helps us? The moral question number one is about the decision about an elderly relative's medical care. So here are some thoughts that might be going through your head. So number one, life is sacred and should be preserved at all costs. Number two, I love my great aunt very much and do not want her to die. Number three, her quality of life is very low, and she is in a great deal of pain. Number four, surgery might extend her life but will add to her pain, at least at first. She might die. Number five, she might die during surgery or as a result of complications. Number six, visiting her in the hospital and arranging for her care are becoming a burden for me. Number seven, if she dies, I will probably inherit part of her estate. So the goal is you have to decide what is right without knowing whether you would be the relative or yourself. So the moral question number two is about the morality of abortion. So the veil of ignorance raises the questions of whether a fetus counts as a person. Who would be part of the social contract? If it does, abortion seems almost always wrong. If it does not, the issue becomes different. So the theory cannot answer this question by itself. It only shows that we need to decide who is included in the contract before we can apply the method. Human relatives to animals. So the same reasoning applies to animals. If animals counts as a part of contract, then using them for good or experiments becomes hard to justify. In our current behavior seems less problematic. So the overall takeaway, the veil of ignorance is a powerful tool for fair moral reasoning. It helps us focus on relevant moral factors and bias. But it cannot solve problems until we determine who is included in the moral community. So that's all for my part. Thank you.
So Persis, say morality is a compromise so people can live together without harming each other. So it means that people follow moral rules so everyone can live safe and avoid hurting one another. Next, some argue social contract can be used for operation, but a fair contract among equal is possible. So it means that some rules can be unfair, but if everyone treated equally, the rules can be fair. Third is the prisoner dilemma show why cooperation makes sense. So it means that working together gives some better result than acting selfishly. Fourth is raw feel of ignorance help create fair rules because we decide without knowing our own rules or position in society. So it means that we make fair rules when we image we don't know who will be in society. And lastly is even with limit social contract reasoning help focus on the most important moral issue and sort out what truly matter. So it means that it helps us see which moral issue matter most even if the idea isn't perfect. And that's all.